Okay, today we're going to review repair of a Denso gear reduction starter. This is the starter kit from Nations. Consists of a new plunger and 2 new contacts. It's a very common and very easy to repair starter for a do-it-yourselfer. So this starter came off of a 2000 Dodge Caravan. A very common complaint of intermittent clicking. The tools that we'll need today for this one, a 7mm nut driver, just a basic 3/8 ratchet, and a 12mm socket and a 14mm socket, screwdriver if needed. That's basically all that you need to fix your own starter. These kits are available at nationstarteralternator.com and nationsautoelectric.com. The price is $26.95 plus shipping, so very economical to fix your own starter, because most of these starters can range anywhere from $130 up to $300 if you do your shopping at a dealership. So what we get whenever we remove the triangular cap with the 3 screws is we see the problem, what's going on. We have a pitted up plunger. We have a worn out contact. If we can come in on this battery contact, especially this side, very typical to have more wear on the battery side because all the current's passing through from the connection to the plunger to the motor side. So on this you have your 14mm. I've made a slight modification on this socket. Just rounding the edges off here, taking it down a little bit so it fits inside the insulator. Break that loose, comes apart very easily. You take your nut off and then just push that post through, and then you can see the worn out pitted contact, and that's the cause of the failure of this starter. So typically a process like this, if it was done at a dealership, they would just replace the starter with a remanufactured. Most garages, are just going to be able to offer just the remanufactured starter and not the parts to fix it. And you're going to pay about 4 or 5 times as much. So after I've got that out of the way, I'm just going to shake that. Go ahead and wipe it out a little bit. This one had quite a bit of wear. This is the original starter on a 2000. So 11 years of starts. Quite a bit of stuff can accumulate in the starter. One good thing about these starters, they run on ball bearings. The brushes just never wear out. I've been doing this for a long time, and you just don't see any brush failure. It's always the contacts. So on the motor side of the starter, and the way the starter works, the switch wire is right here. So whenever the ignition sends current to the switch wire, it magnetizes the coil, sucks the plunger down. You have battery current on this side, and then it crosses over from the battery side to the motor side. Very simple unit as far as the way it works, but very efficient. In my opinion, the Denso brand of starter is really the best made one on the market. If everybody made this starter, then it would not be good for the starter and alternator business. But I definitely like to save people money, and this particular brand of starter is used on, this one's off a Dodge Caravan, but they're also used on Hondas. Probably the first ones were used on Toyotas. All of the components I'm taking apart here are reusable. If we just want to get a shot of as far as what's involved in the pieces that I've removed. We have the insulators, washers, nuts. All of this is reusable, so the parts that we've supplied here is really all you're going to need. On the battery side, the contact has a bevel on the post. It's narrowed in, so you have to kind of secure that and knock it out. I'll get to that. But on the motor side, it's made smooth, so it just pushes right through. When we get to this motor side contact, it kind of sandwiches in between this little wire that comes up and connects to the solenoid. And this is actually how the solenoid completes its ground circuit, because this connects to the motor. So that little wire is crucial for the operation of the solenoid. So now on the motor side, I'm going to go ahead and replace that contact. Take the post and push that through. Go ahead and put my little O-ring back on. The O-rings are there. Sometimes they might get dry rotted and not be usable, but it's not really a crucial component. If your O-ring falls apart on you, you can just put everything back together. I mean, unless you're doing any, off-roading or going through water, it's not going to be a part that's really going to keep the starter from working. So whenever you replace the contacts and you tighten everything back up together, you just want to make sure that the contact stays flush. Usually I'll just put my finger on it as I'm tightening it up. Sometimes they might have a tendency to twist. So you can see this moved a little bit, but I kept the contact flush. You can always come back and, even just tap it down a little bit, with a punch or a hammer. So on this side, it's done. I'm reattaching the motor lead as the 12mm socket. Change that out. Go ahead and snug that down. And again, when you do that, you just want to kind of keep an eye on the contact on the inside. Make sure that it's not twisting, that everything's staying flush. I'm going to go ahead and just take a hammer and just give it a little tap to make sure that it stays flush. Okay, now whenever it comes to the battery side contact, as I mentioned, they are kind of secured in there a little bit differently. And I'm going to go ahead and take this, just chuck it up in the vise, give it a little tap to break it loose, and that's all there is to it. You see the comparison between the contacts. What's coming out in the old one where it's just completely worn out, and then your new contact, which obviously this is going to work a whole lot better. If you're going back together with this, you can either, two different things you can do. If you don't have a vise handy, you can just put it in, and as you tighten the nut on the outside, bring that in. If you have a vise and you can do this, just kind of line it up flush with the top and give it a little tap. So that's got that secured, and it will go down the rest of the way whenever you tighten up the nut on the outside. Okay, and then on the other side, so here I'm just going to take this piece of paper. I'm not really sure how much that helps, but they put it in there. Put the insulator on. This piece of paper, they attach in there like so. This I didn't even move from the outside. Go ahead and put that O-ring back on. This goes in, kind of slides in, everything sits in there nicely, just so you can see now you've got good contacts on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and put the flat washer back on. either socket. Again, I'm just going to kind of grab this with my thumb just to make sure everything stays flush. Give it a good tighten down. And on the plungers, you can see the plungers that we use will be identical to the original ones. You see the difference between the wear that's on the contact disc on the old plunger versus the new one. Replacing all three of these is crucial. The good contact and just the overall longevity of the repair. Done right, there's no reason that this will not last just as long as the first one did. You can see as that comes down, makes contact from battery side to motor side. You can also see that on this end, the other effect, that whenever the plunger's magnetized, it engages the drive into the flywheel. So when your contacts are bad, that's all you hear going on. Click, 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 no start. This one, even as bad as it looked on the inside, actually still started, and I was able to pull it into the garage. So now, place your 3 hex screws. In some cases, starters might be in a position where you can't get them out. You can make these repairs while the starter is in the car. I don't recommend it, but in some cases, it's just too much of a hassle. Some cars you might have to remove the exhaust. Take a half shaft out or something that's where if you can reach up there and get to the starter, you can actually make the repairs on the car. I don't recommend it just because it's much easier to do it when the starter's off the car, and you can definitely make sure that the contacts go in flush. So now I'm just going to bench test this, which I'm going to secure it in the vise, attach this wire into the small connector, and just like it's on a car, we have a ground wire here. I'm gonna just touch this, it's not under load, so I'm just energizing the solenoid. This is just like if it was on a vehicle. You have battery cable, just sending battery to the solenoid, and works every time. So there you go, about a 5-minute repair that can save you lots of money. Go to nationsautoelectric.com or Nations Starter and Alternator and order your repair kit today. Always, if you have questions, you can always call our customer service. We'll be glad to help. Thanks and good luck.